This week on Unapologetic Uplift.
Magic and miracles start exploding in my consciousness.
We don't care if it makes sense.
Be authentic when you're in that state.
You're creating a vacuum. Put your own oxygen mask on first, so I don't murder people.
Call us out on our shit.
Your mind can be a palace. We're speaking different languages.
Not because I have life all figured out.
I get to be imperfect. I get to be unapologetically real.
There's this beautiful spectrum.
Forgiveness is a superpower.
And you can thank me for it because I'm a much nicer person because of it.
That is going to be the focus of 2025.
Get ready to rise above the noise and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift, the podcast that's all about keeping it real and helping you live your best life. Buckle up. Get ready to learn, grow, and evolve with us on Unapologetic Uplift. New episodes released weekly.
Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift. I'm your host, Kim Staples, joined by my co-host, Ianthe Mauro, and our lovely guest, Jennifer Hill. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much, Kim. It's great to be here with you today.
The pleasure is all ours. I'm going to hand it over to Ianthe to do some intention setting, and then we'll dive into it.
And I am, as usual, lighting a candle with a real match. I prefer this to the lighters. There's something about that sound I feel like really connects me to the flame. And the intention on this candle is that we serve our highest and best, and you get to hear exactly what you're meant to hear today.
And so it is.
So it is.
We always start off by allowing our guests to introduce themselves. And we would just love to know what you feel the world needs to know about you, Jennifer.
Well, thank you, Kim. It's a pleasure to be with you and your audience today. What does the world need to know about me? I was just given the best gift of something a friend texted me yesterday, and I was trying to figure out what to call my new podcast. And I've been doing one called Regarding Consciousness for a couple of years, and one before that called Get Yourself the Job. And my friend Brandon Fong sent me a message the other day, and he said, Jen, you know who you are for me is a conscious super connector. And it was so beautiful, ladies. This is the first place that I'm sharing this anywhere because it just happened. And I was like, wow, what a cool way to be known by your friends as a conscious super connector. So I think that's what I'm stepping into in 2025 is really seeing how can I use my conscious super connector superpowers to help myself, help the world, and help bring people together and better understand themselves and one another. So if I have it all my way, that is going to be the focus of 2025 is bringing conscious super connecting to the world.
Oh, I love that so much. And that is such a beautiful gift that is so necessary for so many of us. You know, I often tell Ianthe, her gift in networking benefits me so much because that is not my strongest suit. But, you know, having people in your world that are really, really good at connecting others is so powerful and something I am definitely grateful for. So are you starting a podcast all around being this super connector?
Well, I don't know. This has all come to me. I've been meditating and reflecting on what to do. So I'd had this podcast called Regarding Consciousness with amazing, brilliant thought leaders like Deepak Chopra and Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and many others who were friends. And so it wasn't really as much of a podcast as it was, let me just talk to my brilliant friends and share their wisdom with the world. And then I realized I wanted something that was more of service, more specific, that could take people on a journey. So I'm considering even creating a conscious super connector community where other people who want to connect with other conscious thought leaders, people who are being of service to one another, maybe we all get together a couple times a month. I'm still playing with how that's going to be birthed. And of course, it all ties into what I do in my day job, which is CEO of OptiMatch or Om.app. And that's really all centered on how do we create greater psychological safety and connection. So my whole orbit and world revolves around cultivating connection in a myriad of different ways.
Woo, okay. First of all, I am joining your community. Just let me know how.
Me
I love it.
too.
And so one of the things that I always do on our podcast is I always ask everyone to define terms, because when we say things, I may feel like I totally know what Jennifer's saying, but I'm always aware that there are people listening who might say, I don't even know what it means, conscious superconnector. Can you break that down a little bit? What does that mean? What do you do that creates the conscious superconnector that you are?
Well, you guys are here. It's being birthed through us and as us as we're having this conversation right now, which, as we were talking about before we hopped on the show, you said, is there any questions? And every time I do a show, whether I'm hosting or joining somebody else like you ladies, I always ask just to be of service. So right now we're going to go live at the moment, and I've never defined this before, so let's play with it. So the word conscious, the reason I think the word conscious needs to be in there, and I was going back and forth with my business partners on this yesterday, is for me, the conscious element of being a super connector is the most imperative. Because we have many of us who are super connectors out there. And interestingly enough, 99.9% of all the super connectors I've met are very conscious and conscientious, meaning that there could be a sense of super connecting for taking. And this is the danger zone that I think we all get into, whether we're human beings just trying to interact with one another or the world, or whether we're super connecting people around the world, is it can be dangerous to want to take, like, oh, great, I'm going to get money from this, or I'm going to get energy from this in some way. And for me, that's where the conscious super connector piece comes in. If I'm connecting people, not doing it from a place of wanting to take any energy, but doing it from a place of wanting to give and wanting to be of service. That's where the conscious element comes in. And quite frankly, I mean, that's how we came up with the algorithm for OptiMatch. And that's what my whole life revolves around, is I love to share connections. When I get on a call with somebody, my favorite thing to ask them is, what lights you up? And then as people start to share, just magic and miracles start exploding in my consciousness of all the wonderful human beings that I need to connect that person with in a moment. So I cannot speak for anybody else. And if you had asked me a year ago, am I a super connector? I would have said no. Even today, I'm like, I don't know. I'm a little shy. I don't know. Like it's a lot to get around with using that. And yet, when we do it from a place of consciousness and from awareness, then all of a sudden there becomes this beautiful integration of giving and receiving and just creating symbiosis in every room, every situation, every event we walk into, and just allowing that to be made manifest and to amplify the energy of anybody you meet anywhere.
Ooh, yes. And I write as I'm listening and things come to me. And I had this sense that there was someone listening who would feel, I want that so much, what Jennifer is describing. I want to be this conscious connector who doesn't have a need and doesn't ask for money and have this fear of lack in order to connect, because I got that from how you explained the difference with consciousness. And I would wonder if we could speak to that person for a minute that says, I'm afraid because I actually need to keep the lights on. I need to pay my bills. How do I connect and still get my needs met? And how do I get out of my own way with that fear? And I would love for you to speak to that, because I think that's something that comes up when people hold back the conscious connecting. It's because they're afraid maybe that they have a need and they need to ask for something specific, which I think gets in the way of the conscious connection.
It's a great question, Ianthe. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to revert to one of the spiritual studies that I focus on, which is called Kabbalah. I started studying about 13 years ago, and if anybody wants to deep dive, highly recommend a teacher and mentor I worked with, David Guillaume, his own podcast, and lots of great wisdom on this. And really, it's been the Kabbalistic principles of certainty beyond logic. So when we come from that space of not enough, of lack, of uncertainty, you're creating a vacuum for more of that to come in. Yet when we can, in our morning meditative practices or whatever sort of practice you have, when we can work on cultivating certainty beyond logic just today, and I'm not perfect. I have my share, ladies. I will tell a little secret on air. I had a I worked with, and I didn't hear from them for a week. And I had asked them, I'd held a boundary. To your point, it was like, this client, I love this person. And unfortunately, they had had to reschedule multiple times. And I'm not normally a huge stickler of like, listen, if you have to reschedule again, we're going to charge you for a session. I've never been that person, but it had happened so many times and I had to honor it because it was an hour-long time. And I said, I just need your help going forward. Please give me 24 hours notice. And I didn't hear from the client for a week. And I was like, oh God, oh, I'm not good enough. And now I lost that client. But then again, at the same time, I was meditating if it's in my highest and best good and their highest and best good to continue working together, let it be. Well, it turned out it had nothing to do with me. They had their own huge life experience. And I say all of that to say every morning part of my practice is I say, please give me the certainty beyond logic to expand my vessel 1,000 times its size, to contain a vast wealth and do the greater good you want me to do in the world. And I hand to you my insecurities. I hand to you the I'm not good enough, the I'm not worthy, the hey, how am I going to keep the lights on? And I ask for the wisdom and the certainty to be able to transmute that into something that's going to be able to be used for good. A friend of mine, Gordy Ball, is a brilliant thought leader. And just before this, I was on Instagram for a moment, and he had a great little meme that said, your mind can be a prison or it can be a palace, or something to that effect. And it all just depends on if we're caught up in this not enoughness. For, let's say, this person who's listening right now, it's yes and. Yes, you must always put your own oxygen mask on first. But may I demonstrate it for you, Ianthe, of how this could look
Please.
like somebody? I find sometimes if you give a real life example, it can help people really ground in how it could show up for them. So I'm going to approach you, Ianthe, as though I'm somebody who needs money. Like I am not going to be able to feed my kids, pay the bills tomorrow. And that's going to be the energy that I'm coming to you to work with me as a client. So are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Ianthe, hey, how you doing? How are you? You good today? Cool.
I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I'm so happy we're talking today. Oh my gosh, have I told you what I'm doing? I'm actually doing all sorts of executive coaching. I think you'd be perfect for my program. I'd really love to have you in it. Do you want to come do it with me?
Tell me more.
You have to actually know me, so I know you want to do this program with me. So I really think you need to do this program. Like it's really important. If you don't do it, like there could be some things that won't work out in your life. Do you get the sense of that? So that's like kind of way number one, where it's like, I need you as a client and you must work with me, where there's no space for anybody listening. Oh, I just kind of got to get the icks off me from that, you know?
Yeah. And all of a sudden, what I noticed in my body is all of a sudden I'm wondering, how can I take care of you? And then I'm not getting care. If I'm coming to you as a coach or someone who I need some guidance from, I don't want to then worry about taking care of you. So that energy that's what I did. I was like, are you okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then there's no space. Like the
No.
way my other teachers and mentors have explained it to me, you've literally collapsed the space. And yet,
Mm.
when we come from a place of enoughness, of certainty, of abundance, even if we have nothing in our bank accounts, and remind me to tie in the story of The Richest Man in Babylon, which is a great business book that was just recommended to me. So, on the other hand, Ianthe, so let's play with this again. Going to be the same conversation. And in the first one, you might be able to hear or see that there was an attachment. Can you ladies see that? That there was an attachment that I must get Ianthe as a client, otherwise I'm not going to survive it. So in
Totally.
this one, I'm going to hold an intention that Ianthe and I are going to have an amazing conversation, that I'm going to be of service to her. If she feels like there's an opening for us to work together, awesome. I'll give her an invitation. And if not, I'm still going to provide her with as many resources as possible. So she's going to be taken care of. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So we're going to do this a different way now. Ianthe, oh, it's so good to be with you, my friend. What's going on in your life at this moment?
Oh, I am just so grateful because I've got family coming in. I'm going to spend a week really taking time for myself, which I really, really need with my loved ones.
Oh, that's amazing. Are you doing anything in particular, like blocking your calendar just to be sure that, I know how it is for all of us, right? We want to take a week or two off around the holidays and then life happens, whether it's kids or business. Are you being sure to put some good, healthy boundaries in there so you can actually block that time?
I have. I'm so glad you brought that up. And now that you're saying it, maybe I can get even more specific with my boundaries, because I've mentioned things in passing, like you may not hear from me for a week, but I think it's time to get really clear, because you're right. I really deserve that, to block that time very specifically.
I love that. And may I offer you an invitation of one other thing to perhaps put the boundary cherry on top for you?
Yeah. The boundary cherry on top. I love it.
What totally
Yes.
so the boundary cherry, what if you put on an out of office? Even if you just have Gmail, what if you said, hi, just wanted to let you know I won't be responding to emails until after January 3rd, wishing you happy holidays. What would that be like to actually make that?
You can tell right now, right? I feel so relieved thinking about that. That is so wonderful. That is just beautiful. And I deserve it, and my family deserves it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's like this space that opens up. And that's one of the things that I've noticed is whether we're parents or we're executives, so many of us, we give at the expense of ourselves. We're trying to please and we're trying to be a good friend and a good parent and a good spouse and a good this and that. And then yet we're given nothing. Then we give so much that we have nothing to give to anybody else. And so that's actually something that I'm working on is I think I'm going to do a new mastermind of some sort where maybe we'll meet like twice a month and we'll all deep dive into this and talk about how we can be the CEOs of our own lives so that we're holding these amazing boundaries and yet still standing in our power. Does that sound like something that might interest you to join me for next year?
So much. And I'm already thinking of 3 people that I want to invite along to that too. That would be amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So anyways, that was all made up.
Yeah. No, that was perfect. Yeah. Although it's true that it's also true. It's all made up and it's also true. That was beautiful. And I saw the difference and felt it. And Kim, how was that for you? I keep talking.
Yeah, definitely. So how you previously talked about how when you're in that scarcity mindset, it collapses the room, and this really opened it up and it felt safe and warm and comforting. And also just want to say, Jennifer, there's something in your voice that is very soothing. So that was perfect.
Oh, thank you. I have to give credit where credit's due. Kim on that is a dear, dear friend of mine and business partner and mentor, Arthur Samuel Joseph, and I have worked together for 13 years now. First, where he was my coach for the first about 8 or 9 years. In the last 3 years, we were co-teaching classes together. And he is amazing. He taught Tony Robbins how to speak, Pierce Brosnan, Sean Connery, all sorts of incredible people. And he's taught me how to allow people to feel psychologically safe. Like I'll give you a really funny example. I'm going to actually re-say that word of how to allow people to feel psychologically safe, but I'm going to do it the way I used to do it before I learned Arthur's work. He has a great book called Vocal Leadership. I highly recommend listening to it on Audible because it's like getting a private lesson from him. So if I were to say it the way I used to say it before, how you could feel psychologically safe with other people, wouldn't that be great? And notice if I say that, here's what. Do you know what just happened there, Kim? Can you notice? Do you know what I did that was different?
The inflection in your voice was much different. It was almost more assertive and in your face.
And it's also what a lot of us don't realize, and Arthur taught me this, is that we want to end on a downbeat, just like that, where I ended on a downbeat, versus if I end on an upbeat like that, you're not going to trust me as much. And it's a psychological safety thing. So I have a hard time going back to it, but it's hilarious. I always tell people, go back and rewatch old talks I used to give like a decade ago before I got into this work. And I used to be very breathy and talk like this. And I would always end on an upbeat like this. And then nobody trusted me and I didn't trust myself. Versus if I talk like this and the tone is different and the resonance is different, then it allows us to all feel more connected and intimate and safe.
Well, you've just sold me on this person's coaching.
We were doing a lot of masterminds together, and it was an honor to get to work with him over the last few years. But you can find a lot of great work that Arthur has done on his website, which I think is Vocal Awareness. And I always like to give him credit because all work related to my voice has come from him over the last over a decade.
I want to
Amazing.
acknowledge you for
Thank you for
something too. Yeah, Jennifer, you're so great at giving credit to the people who have helped guide you. And I don't think that it's not that common. I love it so much, and it's just a beautiful thing. So I've written down a whole bunch of names already that you've given us. But it's so great because we're not here by accident. We're not, I don't believe in that. I think that we're all meant to communicate and be together and meet each other, and actually feel often that when I meet people like you that I feel so comfortable around, that I know you on another level, that I've known you before, that it's not just this that we can see with our eyes and this timeline that we're on right now. And that may sound weird to some people and esoteric, but the beauty is what you demonstrate and what Kim also demonstrates, and hopefully what I do, is that we don't care if it makes sense. We trust our intuition. And when something, so back to to relate this to conscious connection, I just want to offer that if anyone listening, if you feel connected to me or Kim or Jennifer or anyone on our podcast or anyone that you come in contact with, you don't have to explain why.
Yeah. I say, I will let you know a little secret, ladies, and I offer this to your listeners. I call it the anti. Do I have permission to say the a-hole word?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
I have audiences. I call it the anti-asshole prayer. And people often, I love to host parties. So in addition to like bring people together, whether it's on Zoom or however that might look, I also love to host gatherings. And it never ceases to amaze me that we'll be at a gathering at my house and people will say, how do you have so many wonderful, lovely people all under the same roof? And I was like, anti-asshole prayer. You see, if you're an asshole, you get zapped at the door and you can't walk in. That's literally the secret, is that if you want to have more amazing human beings who amplify your energy, you have to be willing to mean it, though, because there can be an effect that a lot of people aren't prepared for when they say this. Every day I say out loud, universe, please remove anything or anyone who is not meant to be in my life and give me the wisdom to know it's happening for my good while drawing the right people and resources towards me. And it's one of my favorite mantras that I say every single day. And when I've taught friends how to do it, you might notice friends might unexpectedly leave your sphere of influence. And it's when that happens, it happens to me sometimes, it's just going, oh, is that one of those people who needed to leave so I could open up space for somebody beautiful and new in my space? Thank you. And the wisdom piece is so important so we don't get activated or triggered or take it personally.
Yeah. I have a similar practice, but I love that you call it the anti-asshole prayer. I might have to start using that too.
I used to have a thing I called PS, which was personal space room spray. And that was also my anti-asshole personal space. No one's coming in that's not okay for my personal space. You mentioned the word mantra, and there might be some people who don't know what that means. And I would love for you to give your definition of the word mantra.
Yeah, a mantra is something that you repeat. And a mantra, for example, I do transcendental meditation every morning in TM. They give you a mantra like Sat Nam or Om or a variety of things that you can chant internally to help bring yourself to a state of quiet. A mantra can also be something that you repeat once a day. So I have a lot of those. I say, money flows to me with ease and effortlessly from known and unknown sources. There was one I learned from Deepak, which is every day and in every way, I'm increasing my mental and physical capacity. My biological age is 30. Pick whatever biological age you want. So these are all examples of mantras. So a mantra can be used repetitively, silently to yourself in meditation to go very, very deep, like with TN. Or a mantra can be something that you say out loud verbally every day or multiple times a day. Another one of my favorite mantras, a dear friend of mine who's a CEO out of Austin, brilliant entrepreneur, she and I started playing this game that I learned many years ago called How Does Life Get Any Better Than This? And it's a mantra that was actually taught to me by a teacher probably 7 years ago now. And the idea is every time something a little bit good happens, you say out, how does life get any better than this? And then that redirects from a neuroscience standpoint, your brain to focus on the next best thing that's going to happen. And so that's another version of a mantra that I love.
Oh, I love that so much. And I want to make sure that we go back to something that you said earlier, because you spoke about the Om.app and what you've created to help people have better self-awareness. I got to take it and I've shared it with my kids. I've shared it with some friends. I want to keep sharing it. Actually, I'm remembering and reminding myself right now to do that, because I love the deeper we can understand ourselves. I think the more bridges we have to others, and the better we can be a conscious connector if we really understand more who we are and how we can then attract, and then naturally we attract people because we're resonating at a higher level, because we're understanding ourselves. Tell me about how you came to this and what are the different, I don't want to reveal it, but the way that you call people, the different distinctions, I would love for you to explain, because they're so adorable. How else to put it?
Thank you, Ianthe. Yeah, we call it our lamp survey for lychee, apple, mango, pear. In case anybody does want to try it, anybody can go to om.app/survey and answer it for free and get a complimentary report, as Ianthe mentioned, about how you're motivated, as well as questions that you could reflect upon and areas of potential growth for us all to explore. None of it's right or wrong. We're all lifelong learners, right? Having this opportunity. So how did this come about? Well, remember how we just talked about assholes? I was one. Hi, I'm Jennifer Cahill. I'm a recovering asshole. Nice to meet everybody. And when I was in my 20s building my first company, I didn't understand ladies myself. And that's often when somebody's being a jerk to you. I now can have deep compassion for somebody who might be in a reactive state because I've been there, and I know that when we're our most reactive selves, it's often because we don't understand ourselves, or we don't love ourselves, or we might be being hard on ourselves. So that was definitely me. I was bulimic for a decade. I was suicidal, depressed, you name it. I went through it when between my early 20s to early 30s. And then I found this path of self-discovery. And as I went along that path, I was building a recruiting company, which we later sold. And on that path, I started to notice something very prevalent, which was the reason so many of us fight with one another and have what I call an accidental adversarial relationship is because we're speaking different languages. It's not even that we're both not speaking English. We could both easily be speaking English, but it's that old adage, one person might be speaking apple while another's speaking orange, and we can't understand why we can't hear each other. So that was the basis of the studies that I began noticing the nuances of that in the recruiting field with the thousands of clients and job seekers and all those things we worked with in recruiting. And I would be able to cold read people and tell you what they were motivated by. So after we exited that company, my business coach, Julian, who was transformational in helping me transform from being a jerk to not being a jerk, he then said to me, Jen, why don't we create an algorithm that mirrors your intuition for matching people? And I said, shoot, that's cool. I'm not a software person. He's a software engineer by trade. I said, can we do that? And so we were off to the races. We started developing a psychometric questionnaire with a set of 20 questions. And then we needed to test it. So we created a marketplace of 100 therapists and coaches from around the world. And we had about 150 completed sessions over the course of a year and a half and 750 respondents, and got to an 87% satisfaction rate in early testing. And very shortly thereafter, people started begging us to use it for business. They're like, well, I want to use this for my leadership team. And then Mind Valley just brought us to an event that they did lately where they used us to match everybody at the event. So as much as we started off using it for patient-therapist matching or coach-coachee matching, we quickly found out there was a there to use it across all different types of matching, from communities to events to business, and that's how we're using it today.
Have you done it, Kim?
No, not yet, but I will be doing it after this podcast recording for sure. I'm literally obsessed with any tools we can use to get to know ourselves better and to be able to be better communicators with other people. I too I would consider myself an asshole in the past as well. I was completely disconnected, didn't know myself. And it's just impossible to be authentic when you're in that state of disconnection and not really knowing who it is you are. And when we're able to come back home to ourselves and be authentic, I think that's another really powerful way to attract people that are meant for us, because we're vibrating at that frequency that is us, and we're just naturally going to attract our like-minded people.
Yeah, 100%. So that's our goal, is to help as many people as possible. 1 billion is the number I have in my mind. It might be a little lofty, but why not shoot for the sun? Go big or go home. And that's it, is I love just seeing people better understand each other. Like, a great example of how this shows up in the real world is we had a service provider we worked with. So anytime I work with somebody in any capacity, I'm like, hey, would you mind answering our matching questions? It helps inform how we work together. So I'm on the call with this guy and I asked him 3 questions. And every time he's like, no, no, no. And I'm like, I notice him getting a little triggered because I'm like, oh, well, you're my service provider. Shouldn't I be hearing yes, right? And I luckily had asked him to answer our matching questions on that call. So I get off the call, I notice I'm feeling triggered and activated. And I was like, oh, wait, he answered our matching questions. Well, one of the types is called apples, which are very motivated by information. And 40 is the highest number you can get in any of the categories. And what we found in studying this over the last 3 years is that high apples are always a no first. Not always, I'd say 90+% of the time are a no first before they're yes. So all of a sudden I look at his results and I went from being really triggered and angry to seeing his results that he was a 37 apple. And then I realized it's not personal. He's just motivated differently. He's always going to be a no first before he's a yes, and it doesn't have to mean anything.
Ooh, I love that so much. You mentioned to not take it personally. So that's one of the greatest things, because you've mentioned a few times, I actually wrote down earlier, it's not about, and I wrote the term, it's not about me, because I felt like there were a few things that you've said where as soon as you're caught, you catch yourself thinking it's about you, and then you realize and you get out of that. Now you've transcended that and you're back to all of this beautiful abundance and incredible connections and the higher consciousness. And so your app literally will help people not take it personally when they realize, oh, they have an automatic no. It's not about me. It's so brilliant.
Yeah,
And I actually, yes, it sounds so easy, but it's really not about us. And whenever we figure that out, I had a rabbi once that told me that. It was an event. I talked about this on another podcast episode, so I won't go into the whole story, but I will say that it came from a rabbi who said to me when I was nervous about something that felt to me like it was a performance, and so I was making it about me, and he said, it's not about you. So I was like, that's a relief. Oh my gosh, how did I? And also I want to mention something too that I was thinking, I was giggling to myself. I have never been an asshole. I'm not a recovering asshole. I want to tell you the truth. I've actually always been so nice, and I'm such a ridiculous people pleaser. So I've had a different way of recovery. I've still had to recover, but not from being an asshole, but from being so nice that to the detriment of my own needs. So anyone else listening who says to themselves, who's like me, I just want you to know we're also in recovery or something. And maybe we were, anyway, I think it's great that we're all so aware and we're always working on ourselves. And this tool that you created, that I did, one of the things that made me so happy was that I did it. It was so quick. The 20 questions go by so fast. And I thought, this is so easy. And then it was so fun for me because you said, we match perfectly. Like we make the perfect fruit salad. We're yummy together. We're delicious. And cherry on top.
And
I
that's the
love
funny
that.
thing. Here was a funny example of last year. This time last year, I was in Asia. I got invited to speak in front of a huge audience in India. And I had this girlfriend I'd known for 2 or 3 years, so it wasn't like a 20, 30-year friendship. And we had traveled together, but not sharing rooms or anything. And my husband couldn't come on the trip. So I invite her to come and speak at this event with me in India, and we decided to go. So we are about, ladies, to spend 4 weeks traveling across 5 countries together, sharing rooms, sharing beds, sometimes like all sorts of things. And literally day 2 or 3 of the trip, we're in Sri Lanka airport, and she was an early beta tester of the algorithm. We knew we loved each other. And she said, Jen, why don't I re-answer your matching questions? It's been like 2 years, and I know you've made updates. I said, cool. So she went, and she filled out the 20 questions. And back then, an email would automatically get sent to whoever the administrator was that said, here are this person's top matches. Kid you not, ladies, out of over 1,000 people in the system, this was over a year ago, it showed up, Jennifer Hill is your number 3 match. And so she and I only refer to each other now as number 3 because that's how I recognize her name, because we proceeded to travel 4 weeks, 5 countries, didn't get in a single fight the whole time.
Yeah, that's a good match. Indeed.
So
something else.
Go ahead, Kim.
Oh, no, I was just going to say earlier you had mentioned something. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it made me think, even though there are those of us that have a lot of tools, it doesn't mean that we don't need to use them. A lot of people think that you're trained in a specific modality or many different modalities and you're an expert in these things. You must have it all together and never have to use these tools, right? And it's something that I just love to highlight for people. With myself, I have all of these tools because I need to use them so frequently. That's why I'm so good at them, not because I have life all figured out and have it all together. And I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that because it's a level of vulnerability to share with people and to just let people know that I'm human too.
Yeah, 100%. I have 183 tools. When people say, why do you spend 2 hours a day in meditation and reflection? So I don't murder people and get angry. It's like we all have, like, we're all human. And the only difference is, can we keep that dragon at bay that wants to go like the way when our husband, our friend, whatever, and what we've noticed in the motivating side of things, when my motivators and your motivators align, it often amplifies one another's energy. But when my motivators and your motivators misalign, it's not to say it can't work, but it requires more energy from both of us. And the more space there is, the more room there is to be triggerable. And it's not good or bad. It's just to notice and bring our awareness to it.
Mm,
I wrote down
powerful.
183 tools.
I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. If you guys want me to give you like my top 10 aside from meditation and Arthur and everything in Kabbalah, like those are definitely my top three. But I do, I use them all the time and I'm constantly rotating through the variety of tools and using them for any given moment.
I do recall you sharing numerology with me previously, and you looked up both myself and my husband, and we are each the same numbers as you and your husband, but I think your husband and I are the same, and you and my
Yep.
husband are the same.
Exactly. And that's the thing too, is that if we start to notice that, I love patterns. I'm autistic. What do people want? It's like my gift and my greatest Achilles heel is that I see patterns for better or for worse. And so I love to just find patterns of what has us feel natural affinity, what has us feel natural sense of separation. And there's always room to like bring people closer together, whether you're talking human design, numerology, astrology, any of it. I think the goal is not to try and be perfect, it's to assimilate the aspects of everybody. And oftentimes, when somebody triggers us, it might be that numerologically their number is different or astrologically their number is different. Yet, as we evolve, we come to embody and encapsulate all of that so we become less triggerable in general.
Mm. Less triggerable in general. And the other thing I wrote down, accidental adversarial relationships. I thought that was so brilliant and interesting. I never thought of it that way. What I love about you saying accidental adversarial is that it takes the blame away.
Hmm.
And I think we tend to be people that are listening to this podcast probably are working on themselves and tend to be hard on themselves. And when we can take the blame away and realize, well, we're accidentally adversarial because we don't really know each other. And so we need to do one of these modalities. And we have 183 tools at our disposal that we can pick one and see if maybe that would help so that it's not about us. And I love that so much. I feel that we're in a time right now where there's a lot of quick to blame, quick to judge, quick to cancel. And it's so beautiful to find people like you, both of you, that I'm getting to have this conversation with, who I never feel judged by either of you. I always feel like, and I get to be imperfect and I get to be unapologetically real. And I know that even if there's something I say that you disagree with or that you don't like or that bothers you, I trust you so much that you're going to allow me to be imperfect. And I just want more of that. And I want to thank you both for the way that you do that for me.
Thank you. And I want to share a little story about that. I used to be terrible. Back in the asshole days, I was an awful friend, really terrible. I
Oh my
had this
gosh.
friend of mine for 30 years because I didn't understand people. I didn't understand what being a good friend looked like, which is why I've studied humans and how to be a good friend, etc. And a dear, dear friend of mine, I had two friends. They were both on my first wedding and they were bridesmaids, so they got to know each other through the wedding. And I would gossip about one to the other. I'm really telling one on myself here, guys. Like, I would gossip. And so my girlfriend, the one I've known for 30 years, one day invites me out to lunch. It was literally, ladies, like a breakup. Like, you know how you've had those friends since you were like 10, 12 years old? She was one of those friends for me. And we sit out to lunch, and she has a very stern conversation with me. And she says, I love you. And we cannot continue this friendship if you're going to continue to talk about me behind my back with this other friend. She said, it's come to my attention that you've been doing that. And if we're going to continue this, I need you to stop. And you have to stop being a judgy bunny. And I was like, wow, mic drop. And that's when I learned that good friends don't talk about each other unless you're like celebrating one another's accomplishments, but it's not about putting each other down. Now, granted, there are going to be times where we might have to talk like with a husband or with somebody about something like, hey, I need your advice on that, but it's a totally different context than gossiping for the sake of gossiping. It's like, hey, I need advice. How can I support a friend on this? So it was a really important distinction that she opened my eyes to of how to be a better friend, not just to her, but to myself and to others.
Oh, yeah, that's so powerful. And also, good friends will call us out on our shit and not just pretend that what we're doing is okay. That I think says a lot about a good friend as well, because a lot of people might just gossip too, or just never talk to you again and not give any sort of an explanation. And I have a deep appreciation for people that will tell me the truth, even if I don't like it.
Yeah.
That,
Go ahead, Jen.
no, I was just agreeing with Kim there. I think that's it. That's what it's one of the questions in our survey is how do you get to be friends with you? Do you listen? Are you direct and straightforward? Are you this? Are you that? And for some people, it is being direct and straightforward, but for other people, they would hate that. Like if you were completely direct, they might just go back in their little turtle shell and go, no, we can't be friends. You're too direct for me. And it's okay. It's just knowing that there's this beautiful spectrum of ways that we all get to show up.
And you reminded me too of with the judge, and thank you so much for sharing that story. It's very relatable. I don't know anyone who hasn't gossiped.
Mm.
And I think that all of us I'm pretty sure. I mean, I feel like it's a great reminder because it's a habit that can get started. In Judaism, it's called Lashon Hara, and gossip is literally considered a sin. It's very serious, Lashon Hara. And I learned that at a young age. And what the difference is, I like that you pointed it out too. Sometimes we have to debrief with someone we trust about something that's going on in a relationship that's difficult for us to unravel and understand. That's not the same as gossip.
Yeah.
And gossip, the sin, the gossip, the thing that really poisons relationships and hurts others and ourselves, that's just for the sake of talking about people and what they're doing, and it's none of our business. And so it's so great to be reminded that, and that you had that wonderful opportunity with your friend, and that you've become such a great friend. And I just appreciate it so much.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm being called, speaking of Judaism, and well, it's not technically Judaism, it's ancient mysticism, but it's the Zohar is an ancient spiritual text that predates all religions. And my husband and I will often spend 30 minutes every morning scanning this ancient spiritual text to draw down light and share it with friends and others. And my favorite story I've ever read in any Zohar, I happened to come across this parable yesterday as we were scanning, and I was like, oh, it's my favorite story. And the story gets me every time. And it says that these rabbis were walking along this road. And as they were walking along the road, there was a man who was laying kind of curled up, fast asleep, kind of on the edge near a cliff. And a snake is about to go up, and then a bird at the last second comes up and grabs the snake right before it bites the man. And so the rabbis are looking at this and they're like, what on earth? Who is this man that, that would just have this miracle performed for him? And then not a minute later, the man stretches and yawns and wakes up and rolls over away from the cliff, and seconds later the cliff falls away. And the rabbis are even more astounded, and they say, excuse me, sir, beg your pardon, but we couldn't just help but bear witness to like these two miracles that just happened to you back to back. Who are you, or what do you do to be able to warrant receiving two miracles beyond miracles, to have your life saved twice back to back like that? And the man said, every night before I go to bed, I reflect on if I bear any grudge towards anybody in my life. And if I do, I forgive that person, and I commit to only do kindness by them going forward before I go to sleep every night. And I was like, oh, life goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Chills.
Wow.
Forgiveness is a superpower for sure. I mean, that is, and I'm going to go back and read the Zohar again. You're reminding me.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too.
it's
I
an
have a
ancient
copy.
text. It's ancient. I have one here on my desk, actually. This is the little one for prosperity. And you just scan it with your eyes. Even if you can't read it, you can scan it with your eyes. I actually buy these by the hundreds or thousands and give them away. On the schools I built, I put them at the bottom. And they just bring good luck. who doesn't want more good luck and like good vibes? So I'm like, whatever we can all do to give each other more good vibes, good luck, good energy. That's our intention.
Beautiful. What a beautiful gift.
I actually had a man walk into, I had a store in Malibu in 2016, 17, 18, and I had this man walk in one day and he was looking around and then he came up to me and he handed me his copy of the Zohar. And he said, I just want to bless you with this. And all you have to do is keep it on your register and you don't have to know what it says. You just need to keep it there and the energy will give you so much abundance. And I'm like, wow. So I still
Yeah.
have that copy, of course, but you're reminding me.
Exactly. I've had people years later, like a decade later, come up to me who I don't even remember, and they'll pull it out of their bag and be like, "Do you remember you met me here?" Like I remember there was one time a lady on a train who was 18. Her name was Gintar, and she had a broken suitcase. She just got back from 3 months of traveling in the US. We were on our way from Heathrow into London, and she had missed her last train to go back to her mom's house. And so I gave her my number and I said, listen, if you need a place to stay, I'll put you up in a hotel. I don't want you to be stranded. Let me know what you need. I said, and I have this little good blue book that's supposed to bring good luck. I'll give it to you. Please let me know what you need. If you're in a pinch, let us know and we'll put you up somewhere. So the woman and I become Facebook friends. And about 2 hours, hour and a half after I left her, she winds up messaging me, Jennifer, that little blue book you gave me worked. Not only did I go to the train ticket person, they gave me a free train ticket on the next train for free, and I got home safely to my mom. And it was just like so
Oh,
lovely, stuff like that.
goosebumps.
Do you want to ask him our second and last question?
Yes, I would love to. So we do have another question that we ask all of our guests. And that is, what is one thing you will never apologize for?
That's a great question, ladies. Thank you for coming up with that. One thing I will never apologize for is taking the time I need to meditate and reflect and to be my best self every morning. It's not negotiable. My husband knows it. Any of my friends who travel with me know it. It doesn't matter what country I'm in, doesn't matter if I'm in an airplane, doesn't matter if I'm tired, sick, whatever. I will always meditate every single morning and do my heart focused breathing, my inner child work, my journaling. Like that time is sacred for me. And I don't care if it impacts somebody else. I just know I won't be my best self. So wherever I am, whatever I'm doing, that is priority number one, non-negotiable.
Oh, I love that so much. I also have a non-negotiable morning meditation practice. So I feel you. I have not always been perfect, and there are times where I have fallen off track with it. And I notice such a huge difference in the way that I feel, my mental health, in being regulated and connected to the divine. So it is something that I almost feel, I don't want to say I have been forced into having to do it daily, but if I don't do it, I pay for it. So it is something that I am very consistent with, and something that I've had to learn as well to not apologize for. So like right now I have family staying with me. They're here for the holidays, and I'm not going to be down first thing in the morning with everybody else because I'm going to be in my room doing my meditation practice. And you can thank me for it because I'm a much nicer person because of it.
I know, agree 100%. And if I may, ladies, there's one more interesting story that's a Kabbalistic story, if I may leave our audience with today. May I share it?
Please.
So this was probably one of the most transformational things I'd ever heard. It was Rosh Hashanah of 2019, and I was at the Kabbalah Center doing like this big celebration, and Michael, the lead teacher there, shares the story that I'll share with you now. He said, once upon a time, about 200 years ago in Eastern Europe, there were three wise sages. And these sages, their only job was to traverse the entire world and to gather the wisdom of the world to disseminate it to the people. And so one day they happen upon this village in Eastern Europe, and as they're entering the village, there is but a modest, humble tavern that they're walking past, and they notice something weird. It's long before the days of electricity, you only had candlelight, and there was a man sitting off to the corner by himself, enjoying his midday stew, just sitting there with his head bowed, and yet he was glowing. There was some sort of light glowing off of him. And so the sages were curious and approached the man and said, "Beg your pardon, sir. We are sages. We travel the world, and our goal is to find the deepest wisdom of the world. And we seem to think there's something special about you, sir. You seem to have an aura, glow, something that the rest of us don't have. Is there anything special about you, sir, that we should know?" And the man is so humble, he buries his head in his soup and continues eating and says, alas, gentlemen, you have the wrong person. There is nothing special about me. I am just a humble servant. There is nothing special. I wish you a safe travel and safe sojourn." The sages are kind of disappointed because they're rarely, if ever, wrong about something like this. And so they decide to spend an extra day or two in the village. And so day 2 goes by, and there again sits the man at the bar having his midday stew. And they approach him again. They say, "Beg your pardon again, sir. We know we interrupted your meal yesterday, and we must do so again. We're leaving the village tomorrow, never to return. Is there anything you reflected on yesterday evening that maybe has you be special that the rest of us don't do?" And the man again looks down into his stew and says, "Last gentleman, I'm sorry to disappoint you. I try to be a good husband, a good father. I pray, but many people pray, and try to be a good friend, but there's nothing special. Safe travels, gentlemen." And the sages are just downtrodden and so disappointed. And so finally, the last day, they're passing on their way out of the village, and there again is the tavern. And sitting by the window, this light is just emanating and glowing off this man. And one last time, they go to beg of him, "Is there anything, sir, just one thing, we will never again pass through this village, that you might have thought of, that you do, that the rest of us don't do, that could have you have such a special presence?" And the gentleman again says, "I'm sorry to disappoint you, gentlemen. Safe travels. There's nothing special about me." And they turn around, and the sages begin to walk out of the tavern door for the final time. And the man lifts his hand and says, "Well," and the sages are, "Yes, yes. Well, there is this one thing that I do." Yes, the sages are wrapped with attention at his table, that perhaps not everyone does. And the sages said, "Please, what is it?" He said, "Every night before I go to bed, I pray, 'God, universe, if you know that tomorrow I will wake up and I will reveal the light you intend me to reveal, please wake me. However, if you know that tomorrow I will wake up and I will not reveal the light you intend me to reveal, please don't wake me.'" That is one of the most powerful stories I've ever heard, ladies, and I will tell you, I heard that in 2019. I've only personally had the courage to say that about maybe 60 or 70 times over the last 5 years. And I will tell you, though, that the days I do say it, more magic and miracles happen for me and other people in the morning I wake up, because I'm looking for it. I'm looking for, how can I reveal more light today than I've ever revealed before in my life?
Thank you.
That is so beautiful, and your light is so strong and revealed. And thank you so much, Jennifer. It's just such an honor to be with both of you and to let this be. It's going to be out in the world now, and anyone gets to hear that story exactly when they need it. And we are all definitely the light. We are all light beings and all connected. And I thank you so much. I can't even, there are no more words. It's just, we have to end on that beautiful note. And we'll give everyone easy ways to find you, connect with you, and use your beautiful app.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. It was an absolute pleasure to have you share all of that wonderful, magical wisdom with us, and your light, of course. And thank you so much to those listening. Please do leave us a review and share us with a friend. And you can find in the notes how to find Jennifer. Go follow her.
Thank you, ladies. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on Unapologetic Uplift. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share the love and tell a friend about us, and give us a review.
Please don't miss a thing. Subscribe to this podcast and explore our sponsors, Objects with Purpose, Eco Luxury Candles, and Divine Activation membership.
Objects with Purpose is more than an eco-luxury candle brand. They are time travel devices in the form of a candle. Light the 3 wicks representing past, present, and future with the validation that you are exactly where you need to be. And if you're ready to raise your level of consciousness,
and step into your unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era, join the Divine Activation membership at cuttingties.coach/queen. With 3 tiers to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit to support your transformation.
Thank you for your listening and love. We'll see you next Wednesday on Unapologetic Uplift.
Welcome to the Divine Activation membership, a movement for women that are ready to raise their consciousness and step into their unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era.
With your heart, live authentically and become the magnet for all of your soul's desire.
Grow, connect with your heart and body, release unhealthy and unhelpful thought patterns, heal old wounds, create new neural pathways, and reprogram your subconscious with high-value beliefs so you can manifest the life you're meant for.
Ready to take a break from what's holding you back? Visit cuttingties.coach and join the Divine Activation membership today. Hey, unapologetic souls. I'm Ianthe Mauro, founder of Objects with Purpose, candles that touch the soul and the body. I've released a limited edition 3-wick candle collection in 3 fragrances inspired by a time in history. The Time Travel Collection, because scent evokes memory and lighting a candle can truly transport you to your highest self. Anytime.
Ianthe's candles are truly special, clean, safe, even for the body as a solid perfume or massage oil, and smell amazing. But what truly fills her heart is empowering others to be seen in their best light.
In 2020, when the 200 stores that sold my candles across the country closed their doors, I knew it was time to give back. I started guiding others to launch their own candle companies and design candles and fragrances for other brands as a way to share light in a dark time.
So why settle for just any conventional candle? Light the 3 wicks in each Objects with Purpose candle. You're supporting handmade in California, small batch, artisanal, eco-luxury, and treating yourself to a memory-evoking evolution. Visit ianthemauro.com to discover your next favorite candle. Let the olfactory experience inspire cherished memories.